Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Distinguished President of the Islamic Community of Kosovo, Grand Mufti Naim Effendi, Excellencies, Eminences, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure and honor to be here in Pristina and to address this August gathering for commemorating the third anniversary of the death of Mufti Ambassador Dr. Rexhep Boja. And I thank you, Mr. President, for inviting me and to the Islamic community here for their hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, for me, as a young boy, born in Cairo to Turkish parents, at the end of the Second World War, Kosovo was not a faraway country located in the southeast of Europe. On the contrary, it was a next door place where two of my father's distinguished colleagues, friends, were belonging to Kosovo. The first of these two people was Mehmet Akif Ersoy, the great Turkish poet and the author of the Turkish national anthem. He was the closest friend of my father during his long stay in Cairo. Mehmet Akif Ersoy, father Tahir Effendi, was born in Kosovo. The second friend of my father, Ali Yakup Cenkçiler, was born in Gilan and traveled to Cairo to complete his studies in Al-Azhar University, where he studied for long years and was accommodated at the Ottoman madrasa built by Sultan Mahmud I, where my father was the head of this madrasa, and he taught Ali Yaqub many religious sciences and texts, as well as Turkish poetry. I vividly remember the smiling face and jovial mood of Ali Yaqub Effendi, and particularly when he spoke Turkish with an Albanian accent. The third prominent Kosovan personality that occupies a special place in my memory was Dr. Rexhep Boja. He was my generation. We met in Istanbul, but our lingua franca was not Turkish, as it was the case 50 years back in Cairo. Here it was Arabic because of his academic career. It was hard times where the Yugoslavian Federation was broken and independent states were emerging from ethnic and religious conflicts and wars that started in 1991. It was a fortunate of Kosovo that on the same year, 1991, Dr. Boja was elected as the head of the Muslim community of Kosovo, better known as Grand Mufti of Kosovo. In these turbulent years, he was a smiling face of Kosovan Muslims, and he was the one who represented them to the Muslim world in a moderate, soft-spoken alim. He had a good command of Arabic besides his other talents, and this made him an eloquent speaker that was welcome in many Arab countries. In Turkey, and particularly in Istanbul, he was not an outsider. He was one of us. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I remember the day he came to meet me, the day Dr. Rexhep Boja came to meet me as a Director General of Ish-sekretarit. Ish-sekretarit was the research. This is photograph taken in early 90s, where we had a program of rebuilding Mostar 2004. So this is 1994 or so. You see, he's a very young man here. And that was the time he became a mufti of Kosovo. And here, the first gentleman on the left is a famous architect, Bosnian architect, who was in charge of doing the program for Ish-sekretarit. The Research Center of Islamic History, Art and Culture was a subsidiary organ of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Boja's task in representing his country was harder one because Kosovo was not as well known as Bosnia-Herzegovina. I introduced Dr. Boja to OIC circles and its related organizations and facilitated his meetings with certain official institutions and non-governmental organizations in different Muslim countries. In the case of Turkey, of course, there was no problem because he was at home and there are many Kosovans well established in Istanbul and willing to help in those difficult days. Ali Yaqub Cenkçiler, who moved from Cairo to Istanbul in mid-1950s, had passed away already in 1988. But he left behind him a circle of students and friends who have been impacted by him and shared his passion for Kosovo. Apart from the Turkish context, I would like to pay special homage here to an outstanding philanthropic personality that known Dr. Boja and cooperated with him, His Highness Sheikh Sultan Al-Qasimi, the ruler of Sharjah, who showed great interest and generosity in helping the Muslims of Rumelia, and it was his due generosity that Dr. Boja was capable of constructing the Mashihat building. In the decade that witnessed the wars of independence in the Balkans, the religious leadership of Dr. Boja had a distinct character. He had a low-key and soft-spoken, honest and reliable character. He had no claims outside his own country, and with this in mind, he navigated through hard waters and tides. Contrary to others, he was one of those correctly conscious of their own religious legacy that the Balkan countries had long centuries, and that they had their own Islamic traditions that became an essential part of their culture, identity, and their own personalities. So Dr. Boja had an appreciation of his religious legacy. In 2012, Kosovan government took a wise decision by appointing Dr. Rexhep Boja as a Kosovan ambassador to Saudi Arabia. That was courageous. And this time, I was a Secretary General of OIC, placed in Jeddah while he was posted to Riyadh. Being in Jeddah and him being in Riyadh, we had a very good cooperation for promoting the case of Kosovo among the Muslim world. One of the good results of our cooperation was extending the OIC Secretary General's invitation to Foreign Minister Dr. Anwar Hoja, as well as to Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi, to visit Jeddah and initiate a relationship with OIC and its resolutions. Then I extended an invitation to Prime Minister Thaçi to participate in the Islamic Summit in Cairo next year. You can see here some photographs of the visitors, if you can. The slides, please. Yes, this is Prime Minister Thaçi visiting the Secretary. And you can see Ambassador Boja on the end of the beginning of the, go ahead, please. Here, this is in Jeddah, in the office of Secretary General. Dr. Boja was Prime Minister. Carry on, please. Again, with the Prime Minister. Here, you can see him at meeting the press in Jeddah, Saudi press in Jeddah. Carry on, please. Yes. Yes, please, carry on. Here, where I think this is with Dr. Hoja, Anwar Hoja. Please carry on. No, it's still with the Prime Minister. Here, yes, Dr. Hoja. This is Jeddah office, yes, and here you can see Ambassador Boja. Yes, again. Yes, this is in my office. So that was a wise decision from the Kosovan government to appoint him ambassador to Riyadh, and he was accredited to all Gulf countries where he raised awareness of his country's problems. I don't know of a second example that a mufti was appointed ambassador. I think this is the only one, and the credit here goes to the government of that time. And I have to confess that yesterday I was visiting religious institutions, academic institutions here in Pristina. And this morning I had the pleasure of going to Prizren and having the Friday prayer at Sinan Pasha's mosque. The impression I got yesterday and today, that the way Dr. Boja formulated religious activities and the pathway he went through has been appreciated by the people and preserved by his follower, particularly Grand Mufti Naim Effendi. So I express appreciation because this is not an African country. This is not a community in Australia or New Zealand. This is a nation's deep in history in this place and their commitment to Islam. Our friendship with Dr. Boja continued after we both retired. One day, I received an unexpected phone call from his son, the demise of his father. His father was a dear old friend, Rexhep Boja, academician, Grand Mufti, ambassador, and wise man. Thank you.